Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of The Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of our past guests have included Mark Furman, CEO of eTream, and Shelley Taylor, CEO of Alamo Drafthouse Cinemas. Today, I get to speak with Mike Jalonen, the founder of Habit Driven. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When the last step to earning your client's business requires processing forms, don't ruin a good relationship with a bad experience. Instead, get Quick Forms to make processing forms a great experience and the easiest part of your transaction. Visit quickforms.com to get started. Now, before I introduce today's guest, I have to give a big thank you to my cousin, Michael Stirk, who introduced me to Mike about 15 years ago. Who knew we'd become such great friends? Now I'll introduce today's guest. Mike Jalonen is a serial entrepreneur with over 2 decades of entrepreneurial experience building marketing and technology companies. Currently, he is a habitpreneur who is passionately building a revolutionary app focused on helping people build better habits. Mike's vision is to empower over 1 million people to fulfill their potential through continuous habit transformation before the year 2025. Mike, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Look, if you haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Mike, I want to understand your business a little bit better. How does your company help people?
That's a great question. Well, I think we can all agree that we're the sum of the things that we do on a daily basis, and all those things come from the habits that we have. So our business helps people identify the habits that they have, become mindful of the things that they do, and transfer those habits to better habits to improve their life.
So, habits are conscious and subconscious, right? Are we focused on trying to change the little ticks and things we don't like? Are we trying to do things that are greatly improving it, or just reinforce them? Which ones do you focus on?
Actually, by definition, habits tend to be subliminal and things that we don't think about. They're the actions that we do when we're not thinking about what we're doing. But in order to create habits, to have your subconscious mind do those things, we have to be aware of what we're doing. And in order to make changes, we have to track those habits. But after a period of time, there's really not a need to track habits that you do on a regular basis because they are habits. And at that point, the reason you'd be tracking them is only to ensure that you're improving on your journey.
Right. So let's take a habit that I think a lot of people can relate to, diet. So many people want to change their diet. And is that a habit? Is that a routine? How would you put that into perspective?
Yeah, that's a double directional. Most people think with diet, everybody's trying to lose weight, especially here in America. But the reality is there are people that are trying to improve their energy levels. There are people that are trying to gain weight and gain muscle and things like that. So diet plays an important part, and and there's a lot of apps out there that help people track their diet, macronutrition, things like that. MyFitnessPal, for example, and those apps are very specific to tracking a diet. And then there's other apps along the same lines that are very specific to, let's say, tracking your steps or your exercise, your weight routine, or if you do affirmations. Our app intends to integrate with those very specific apps so that data will feed into our app, but our app is much more along the lines of 7 different pillars, which are available on our website. So everything from financial habits to exercise and diet and things like that. So at a broad stroke, there are very simple things like I want to intermittent fast. And so I want to make sure that I do that 3 times a week. And our app is very good at making sure that you do that 3 times a week, that it's flexible, that you get to choose which days, because one week may be different because you're traveling. But when it gets really specific to, I want an apple to be, when I eat an apple, I need the app to know that it's 90 calories and it needs to be recorded in a certain way. our intent is to integrate with existing platforms that have already done that have very specialized characteristics.
Yeah, my wife is a big fan of MyFitnessPal, and she's used that extensively, among some other ones for diet and nutrition. So that's part of where I'm coming from. I'm curious though, is your product a scheduler? Is it, I mean, describe it to me. What is it actually doing that helps people achieve better habits?
Great question again. So, and just to be clear, on the App Store or the Android Play Store, you'll find over 100 different habit tracking apps. And many of them, they all operate a little bit differently, but at the core, what they're doing is allowing you to be mindful of the goals that you're trying to accomplish and to track them over time and make sure you stay consistent. So what's kind of unique about our app is there's a set routine. A routine is just a series of habits that happen in a specific order. And so you may have a morning routine, a night routine, and then a daily routine. And then sometimes you'll do things in the morning that you have to do at night because you didn't do them in the morning. So the ability to be flexible and drag and drop habits and move them is really important. That's one thing that our app does that some other apps do, but not many. What makes our app a little bit different there as well, and some of the other ones that do this is we're integrating AI, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. What AI does is it evaluates how your habits stack up and how often you do them and when you miss them and when you pass on them and all that stuff. And it will reorder if you choose to. It will allow you to reorder those habits in an order that makes most amount of sense, so that you're kind of ticking them off in the general order that you have. Does that make sense there?
No, that's cool. That's really cool. I mean, if you have an AI component, it kind of acts like a personal assistant and a coach at the same time. So, I mean, I'm thinking about like my own life. For example, I had some back pain. I took ibuprofen for too many days in a row. I got stomach problems from a result of that. I then said, oh, I'll take cayenne pepper, which did resolve it. And I did that while I was in pain and just barely out of pain. And then I forgot all about it. And I wanted to make that a habit of my life. And I keep forgetting to do it. And I need that AI to tell me, hey, you keep forgetting to do it. Go do it.
Yeah, you've got it. You got it just right. That's exactly. And obviously, there's plenty more applications for how we're using AI, but that was one of the original concepts. So yeah, right on.
So Michael, look, I mean, our audience doesn't know my history with you, and I've seen you building companies and being successful in so many different ways. Why this? What made you say, I got to build an app? I mean, there's, like you said, there's hundreds of apps out there.
Yeah. If someone were to look at my LinkedIn profile and try to guess what my next business was going to be, they probably wouldn't have suspected that habit-driven was going to be the next business. Most of my business opportunities and the things that I've worked on have been around B2B type business, marketing technology companies. It was in November of last year. I was sitting down, kind of beginning to plan for what the new year is going to be. And it was just about the time that OpenAI's ChatGPT came out. And I was enamored with even the first version of ChatGPT. And I was thinking to myself, it was just a time in my life when I was looking at the next thing that I was going to do, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And I was thinking to myself, what is it that I can do that would bring good to people, that is something that would help me improve on something that I'm already doing in my life? And weirdly, on another monitor, when I was looking at my screen, I saw my very elaborate habit tracking Google spreadsheet, which nobody else would understand what it is except for me, because it's just grown over the years to something that's just pretty convoluted, to be honest with you, but it works for me. And I said, I'm gonna go to the App Store and go look at apps that exist out there. And I did, and I found that they were either way too simple, way too complex, or a lot of them were dormant, meaning they hadn't been worked on in a long time and the technologies had changed and things like that. But not one of them had a mention of AI. And I had this vision, just from playing with ChatGPT for a few days, I had this vision like this could change a lot of different things about personal development, and AI, can do a lot of different things in the habit transformation. So I took the Google spreadsheet, literally copied and pasted the rows and the columns. Then I told ChatGPT, these columns mean these things, these columns mean these things. And I asked it to analyze and give me a summary of what it thought. And I was blown away by it telling me things like, well, you tend to miss, your morning with Mike. I had to tell it, morning with Mike is an exercise routine that I do. But it would tell me which days I missed it, and it would correlate that with other things that I was doing. And I thought that was just brilliant.
So wait a second. Wait a second. Yeah. You're introducing something I hadn't even thought of, which is you're tracking your habits. You were already tracking it. I mean, I would just say, I want to do this exercise. You're actually saying whether you did it or didn't do it every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For the last several years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of my DNA now. Don't get me wrong, we all fall off the wagon, and some days, we don't feel well.
But we don't admit it. We won't put it in the document.
Right,
we'll just be like,
But it's okay. There's some philosophies behind it too. But the reality is, seeing what happened when I was able to do that opened up my entire world to this vision of an app that not only gives insights. What we just talked about is what I would call insights. I give it data and it gives it back to me. As a software developer, we don't need to create custom reports or things like that. There's dashboard components, but you can ask, we call Habby is our habit coach that's included. That's their AI coach that's in the app. You can ask Habby anything you want. And because of the language model, it's able to understand what that is and respond accordingly. But that was just the beginning, to be honest with you. That's just what got me excited. The more we moved into it, the more I realized the potential to get this app in a lot of people's hands. So as we know, you've been in software even longer than I have, the marketing component to it, even B2B, B2C, it really, they're different strategies. But if the company can't help enough people to sustain a revenue model to grow and improve, then it doesn't much matter. So I didn't want to just create an app that was good for the few. I wanted to create something that could be distributed easily and efficiently and cost effectively. And so in my mind, I was thinking of all these great content creators, all these great authors, YouTubers and whatnot, respected people that bring good value. And I wanted to take that content and I wanted to bring it into the app. So if you didn't know what habit to create in order to reach your goal, you could learn from the app. You could ask questions. So, Jack Canfield, for example, is really good at affirmations and teaching people about affirmations. And you expressed interest in affirmations. Would you like to learn some more about that? And these are some suggested habits. And here's the further resources. So I figured if I could get content from these individual contributors, and they can all be on a platform. These are curated by the company. The parent company is Life Apps. So this is our first flagship product. The idea would be that Jack Canfield, for example, would want to promote this to his base. He has a very big base. And so and I'm just throwing names out there, not necessarily saying that we have connections with any people, but let's say Tony Robbins as well wanted to do that. And so the rising tide floats all boats. People are coming to use an app because they're told about it from the person that gave them all the content, they gave them all the education, but those people didn't have a tool for those for their clients or their base to actually take the information they're giving them and track and see and monitor and get better and improve on it. So those were the first two reasons, insights and creating this channel and creating this content so people can be educated and so that the content creators can get to those people and give them this tool. Those were the first things that popped into my mind. And then it got even.
There's a couple of things that crossed my mind. Like, this is ideal for a friend of mine, Kyle Lasota. He is an expert on getting the right amount of sleep and building longevity in your life. And so he teaches people how to sleep properly. And so I have this struggle. My kids keep me up. My work keeps me up. My lifestyle choices keep me up. And I have to actually set reminder, go to bed, like go to bed. And this might help me do that because it might help me track that and plan for it and then prompt me I presume it's going to come up with notifications and such, right?
Oh yeah, but I would be honest with you. You have an Apple, right? You're an iPhone guy.
Sure.
Apple Health does a great job with that, and right now you can take advantage of that. Now the reason I say that is because we're planning to integrate with Apple Health, so there's already a tool for that. But what it doesn't, in order to get that information, you need to go back to Apple Health, and that doesn't correlate to your diet or your exercise or your sleep patterns or things like that.
Right.
Actually, it does a little bit. So that's why what I was saying earlier is we're integrating with all these different individual habit trackers to get all of your data in one spot, and then use AI to help you understand what's actually happening in your life.
So the other thought that came to my head when you were talking about this is the business model. And you know me, I love business models. And I'm thinking, wow, you have like this really black and white fail or succeed type of measurement. If your customer really gets a lot of value out of this, they'll never want to leave. If they get no value, they're not going to pay. And it's all about them achieving their goals, which is really super well aligned, right? I mean, I love having a product that's aligned with my customers' goals where I get paid with they achieve what they want. This is really cool, Mike. So this is what made you want to start it. But I mean, come on, entrepreneurs have ideas all the time. You could have kept going with your spreadsheet. Why keep driving? Why invest so much time and effort and money, I'm sure, to get this out there? How did you come up with this goal of 1 million people helping them achieve their potential?
I have to be really honest with you. This is the first business that I've ever created where I didn't start with a spreadsheet to see how much money we would make or what the target market was or any of that stuff. The initial concept was just pure amazement for what we could build that doesn't exist out there. And in the back of my mind, it's a low-cost startup. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, not millions of dollars. We don't need VC funds or anything like that. It's self-funded. The concept for me was the worst case scenario is I'm going to have something that I can use for the rest of my life. And for my close friends who were part of the product design phase, because we didn't start building anything until we spoke to a lot of people, and we did it smart. We designed screens and asked people like, is this going to take too long? Should we be able to do this shortcut, or do you feel like that these steps need to be taken? So we did all of that up front, and then I went back, of course, before we started committing significant amount of time, which is more valuable than money in a lot of cases. Before we even did that, went back and then did a spreadsheet and see, well, how many people do we think that we can help? And we started looking at, what is the personal development space? How many people actually contribute? What's the drop-off rate? Obviously, it's pretty high. It's really good on January 1st, and on January 10th, all of a sudden the user base continues to go down. And that's why a lot of these apps, by the way, they have like, you can buy a lifetime membership for $30, or you can pay $10 a month. And they're like, well, so we'll try to do that. That's not our plan, by the way. Our plan is, if it doesn't bring value, you shouldn't use it, and then that's it. We don't want to do those kind of things. So long story short, when we went back and did the math and pulled out the spreadsheet and then looked at the channel opportunity, along with some other value options that we haven't talked about yet, we felt like if you were to take the top 10 influencers in personal development, and they were to be able to offer this to 1% of their entire base, it would be 50 to 70 million people easily worldwide. Right. So, those are the kind of things. It's interesting. The whole target market and all that. We just had to make sure that there was a big enough market. We're not trying to define our market share or anything like that. Our goal is to help people.
I'm with you on that. I really am, because I'm in the forms business. How many forms can we add to our library? We're almost at 40,000. We could be at 400,000. We could be at 40 million. It's not about the how big the market is. Is it big enough? Can we have a big enough impact? So I love that way of thinking. Now, Mike, I wrote a book on how to change. It's called "It's My Life. I Can Change If I Want to." Do you have a copy? I have a copy, of course.
I literally have, just for the audience.
So yeah, awesome.
It's been on my desk for, I don't know, how many years ago did you give me this? 10 years ago?
Yeah, I published it in 2011. So of course, I'm passionate about enabling people and empowering people to be their best version of themselves, which I think stems from change. So I want to debate this with you a little bit. Is a habit a routine? Is it a belief? Is it deep rooted? Is it on the surface? How do you see this psychologically manifesting? Your app is helping, I think, build the structure, the routine to make it repetitive and therefore become natural. But how do you really view a habit in the person's mind?
A habit by definition is just a task that you do without thinking about it. Frankly enough, that's all it is. And I think, as we mentioned, a routine is just a set of habits that you do in a particular order. A lot of these words get interchanged a lot. What the purpose of a habit tracking app is, firstly, is to be mindful of things that you want to do that you're currently not doing. I don't need to set a habit that says, wake up and brush my teeth. I've been doing that my entire life. It's literally the first thing I do after using the restroom. Like, it literally goes in that order. It happens every day. It's the same thing. If you were to observe somebody that ties their shoes, everybody does it a little different. Some start with the right, some start with the left, but you do it the same every single time. You don't need to track those. The things you need to track is say, you know what? I want to change my diet. And I want to do intermittent fasting, again, to use that example, or I want to make sure that my calorie count is under 1,500 calories a day in this particular scenario, whatever it may be. If you're not doing that now, the first thing you need to do is be mindful of the things that you need to do in order to do it. And until it becomes a habit, until you do it without thinking about it, tracking it becomes very important. And some of these are moving targets. Like, one of the problems with people who undergo this habit transformation process is a lot of times they're like, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym tomorrow. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm going to go an hour a day. And so there's a lot of science behind habit transformation. The idea for people to do that kind of thing and stay consistent on it and start from scratch and get there and actually be successful with a big grandiose habit like that and having 10 of them on top of it that they never had before, the chances of their success are very small. It may be on day one, you get up and you put some shoes on that you usually don't put on. You put those shoes on because those are your gym shoes on, and you don't even make it to the gym, but you can check off the box because you got there. And then the next day, maybe you get in your car and you don't even want to go to the gym, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna at least open the door and shut the door, and I got to the gym. And then the next
baby
day,
steps.
So that, by the way, that's some of the education that you get through some of these apps. And so I think for a habit formation, habit tracking app, the goal is not necessarily it's not a to-do list. We have lots of to-do lists. This is a mindful thought process that helps you transfer or transform where you're at now to where you want to be by changing your behaviors. And if you don't track it, it won't get, I shouldn't say it won't, but the chances of success are much less.
So one of the reasons I love the concept of your app is, going back to my book, I believe that the best way to change is to understand the belief that's driving current behavior and change that belief to a better one that encourages and supports the new behavior that you want. It's like you talk about going to the gym to lose weight or to get into shape or to, I don't know, be able to do a marathon, whatever it is, whatever your goal is. You have to first believe that you can do that. And you have to have the right belief around why you're doing it. Otherwise, the pain is too great. No matter how many times you're reminded to go to the gym, if you haven't believed in the rationale to go to the gym, it's really hard to get there. But at the same time, there's another way to form new beliefs. And it's with an app like yours. It's just to do the work. I think Tony Robbins said it, that if you are not feeling great and you stand up, look to the sky and smile, you do that enough, you can't help but feel new energy and feel better and feel more positive. And it's the same thing, I think. If your habit-driven app is helping me be mindful of the things I want to accomplish, even if I haven't reconciled why I want to accomplish them perfectly, you're still going to help them get there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about what you mentioned as well, though. I think identity-based thinking, like if you're just going after the end goal and saying, I want to lose 50 pounds or 10 pounds or whatever it may be, that's kind of an uphill battle to stay on that path once you've reached there. So you need to change your identity. See, I'm the kind of person that is this weight, whatever it may be. And then I'm going to do the kind of things that person does. And then you can use our app to ensure that you're doing those kind of things. If you were already doing those things, you wouldn't need this app for that purpose, right? Because you would already have been there. And so I definitely believe that goal-oriented habit tracking is the surface level. The real juice here is people changing their identity and then understanding, what does somebody who is 165 pounds, as an example, if that's your goal, what does that person do? What are the things that I can do that that person does? And that's how you get there. It's not, I need to lose 15 pounds, so I'm going to do these things. Those don't stick. To be
right. I was going to ask you something else about this. So you obviously care a lot about the customer success, but I also know you care a lot, because you're a technologist at heart too. You care a lot about the customer experience. How did you go about designing this app to be different than the rest of the apps in the world, and to create an experience that was actually intuitive and easy to use and makes people want to keep coming back to your app? What are some of the techniques that you came up with?
Well, those two things are obviously very closely aligned. If the experience sucks, people will stop using it. I don't know how to put it any more simple. Especially this app was designed to be used almost as much as your text messaging app on your phone. I mean, this can be used throughout the day. I personally track 40 habits a day. That's me. That's crazy Mike. That doesn't mean everybody does that or should do that. So the user experience is extremely important. The speed at which you move from screen to screen is important. The ability to create, we kind of follow the Apple mentality, just keep it really simple and easy to understand. But the ability to drag and drop cards and remember what those cards were for the next day when you get up, and if you only did it one day, to not change them for the following days, using the AI and things like that were really important. One very interesting, we'll see how it goes. In the next couple of weeks, we're releasing this to our founding members, which was the original ability for people to be part of this at an early stage and get a lifetime membership. We're introducing it to them, and we'll get some more input. But I think one of the most interesting parts is, I can say that I did red light therapy today, and that's great, right? Like, red light therapy can help you on 5 different goals that you have, or 10, or whatever. But if that's it and I leave it at that, then it's just I did it or I didn't do it. It's one of the 4 types of tracking habits that we have. The challenge with that is, I didn't provide any feedback. I didn't provide any notes. I didn't provide any camera. I didn't provide any voice. So we allow people to tag their habits. It's not a requirement. You can do just yes, no, and I did it or I didn't do it, or I drank 5 glasses of water, that's a quantity, or I did 50% of what I was supposed to, that's a percentage. You can do all those things, but if you take the time and energy to actually record video or audio, video, or notes, AI will help you understand what you were feeling when you did certain things like that. And so now you can start to understand why you did or did not do things. So we want to encourage people. So I'll just give you an example. The dashboard has things that we call habit cards, and these are the things that you can move up and down and create routines and do all that great stuff. If you just swipe right, it says I did it. If you swipe left, it says I didn't do it. Just the little snack bar at the bottom of the app says add a note. If you add a note, you're going to get a lot more value, because all those notes are going to be attached to that particular habit on that particular day, and it allows you to analyze it. And the way that you can do the notes is really simple. Like, you don't have to just type it. You can record it. You can just take it off your camera roll or whatnot. So we did a lot of those things that we literally went through every single app on the App Store. So we like this, we don't like that, we like this, we like that, we like that, but we don't like the way that it does that. And then we layered on AI on top of it, which we couldn't really go look at another app that did that. So the vision is, at the end of this, this won't be available in the first release, but I could be sitting in bed at the end of the night and say, you know what, I really just didn't enjoy going on my jog. I forgot to drink as much water as I used to. Or what that is supposed to. I don't know exactly how much I did. I didn't do a really good job tracking it today. And I'm really looking forward to going on my run tomorrow, but I'm nervous because I've got a breakfast meeting before that. And it would automatically go start changing and turning, the quantities and doing whatever it needs to do, and you can just have a dialogue with it, or it can ask you in a chatbot format. So those are the directions that we're going. And this is a user experience that people, especially people that use ChatGPT or any chatbot, for example, love. Like it's free flowing. It's just like talking to a human.
You just reminded me of a principle. You're familiar with the 2% rule. You remember that?
Thinking of the 1% rule right now.
Or is it the one? Well, I think it's 2%, but it could be 1%. It's if you eat a Big Mac every single day, you're not going to die tomorrow. But over the long term of doing that, you're going to have bad arteries and you're going to get fatter. These are poor choices you consistently make. They're small choices, right? And if you made the opposite choice, a small incremental beneficial choice, you would see incremental improvements with big changes over a long period of time. And I'm hearing you talk about your Habit app, where if you do the activity, but you make no notes, you can't go back in time and remember how you felt. You can't remember what you struggled with, because eventually you're going to change if you do it, but it'd be nice to hear that feedback from the past that you gave yourself and to see the triumphs that you overcame and the struggles you overcame to get to this point in the future. But also, I imagine if you're doing that, you're going to be able to correlate that with other users potentially, where they can all come together. Everybody's at this stage, they're struggling with this, and then you give them better feedback like, hey, you know what, this first week is really hard at the gym, et cetera. I'm so optimistic about what you're building here, Mike.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that leads to the fourth way we're going to use AI, which I didn't even think about. It was brought to my attention from other people. We have a very small chat-based server on Discord, which is a terrible name for a chat-based server. But anyhow, regardless. So here's the idea. When I originally created this, I'm a pretty driven person myself. That's where Habit Driven came from. Like I'm just very tenacious, and I don't expect a lot of people to be. And that's not always a good thing, by the way. But nonetheless, I was just thinking about creating an app that was able to help put all this together. The AI component was great, but the reality is, I think 50% of the company is an app and 50% is a community. And because we are learning we're helping, we never share data from one user to the other or anything like that, of course. We don't sell data, none of that stuff.
Nobody knows my actual weight loss.
No, or that you want to lose weight, for that matter. But you can opt in to AI matching. And so here's something that's really important. There's a lot of components to habit change that makes them effective. One is making sure that you don't bite off too much that you can't chew. One is your environment. If you're trying to quit drinking, you probably shouldn't be hanging out at the bar very often. Those kind of things. But another big one is accountability. So you're either accountable yourself or you have an accountability partner. And ideally, it's both. And so imagine we're upwards of 1 million users on our platform globally across the world. And you have similar habits to other people. And we know that, obviously. So if you opt into this service, we can match make you using AI to an accountability partner to help you be the most successful you can possibly be. And this is one of the most exciting things, because I see a lot of these habit tracking apps out there, and they're just pure technology. The reality is, pure technology is not going to solve the problem. This is a effort that requires a personal touch as well. And so we believe that we can foster a community of people that have like-minded interests and connect people. And that's more of a December, January timeframe rollout. But starting on day one, as people are using this app, we're helping them build their database so that they can find those people if they still wish to do.
I love it. I love this concept. Look, we're going to have to wrap up here, but I do have another question before we do that. I wanted to ask, how should people connect with you? What's the best way to find you?
I think every single social media platform works. On the website, there's a little bio about myself, and there's my Twitter, my Twitter and my LinkedIn profile. I would suggest Twitter is probably the best way to leave me a message.
Okay, cool. So here's my last question. Given that you started an app for habits, who's had the biggest influence on why you wanted to build this product?
I would say there's been many, but without doubt, I've probably read the book a dozen times. It would be Atomic Habits by James Clear. He sold over 10 million copies. I believe the book is 4 or 5 years old. He does a lot of social media shout outs and just great insights that go well beyond the book. James has a way and a methodology of taking and aggregating a lot of what other people have said before him. And he's self-mentioned this, that he's done his own research and he's aggregated, but by all means, James Clear's Atomic Habits has been by far the most inspirational, influential, and educational tool and author. And I would love to meet him someday. But yeah, that would be the driving force.
I'm sure you will get that chance. I can imagine that this product takes off so well that he becomes at least a user of it and sees the benefit of it. At least that's what I hope for you. Really, truly awesome, Mike. This is so great. I want to give a big thank you to Mike Jalonen, the founder of Habit Driven, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Mike's website at habitdriven.ai. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easy. I hope you enjoyed this discussion, and we'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channel for the future episodes of The Customer Wins. Mike, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Rich. It's so great to see you, and I can't wait to visit with you in person soon.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.